Have you ever wondered why doctors, scientists, and researchers around the world have documented thousands of cases that completely challenge everything we've been taught about the end of life? Why is there a silent conspiracy to keep these discoveries away from public knowledge? The answer is simple: because this truth would free humanity from the fear that has controlled it for centuries. At this moment, while you watch this video, millions of people around the world are experiencing experiences that prove, unquestionably, that their loved ones continue to live, conscious and loving, in a dimension parallel to ours. These experiences don't only happen to special people or those gifted with supernatural abilities. They happen to ordinary people, people like you, who suddenly find themselves confronted with irrefutable evidence that everything they believed about death was wrong. Are you ready to discover 5 spiritual experiences so shocking and well documented that they will shake your deepest convictions about the nature of human existence? Are you prepared to understand why Allan Kardec, more than 150 years ago, had already unraveled the mysteries that modern science is only beginning to accept? If you fear death, if you have already lost someone dear and feel an inexplicable emptiness in your heart, or if you simply seek answers about the true meaning of life, prepare yourself for a journey that will completely transform your perspective on existence. Because at the end of this video, you will no longer be the same person. You will have discovered the most liberating truth that a human being can know: that love is eternal, that consciousness is immortal, and that those we love never, ever truly abandon us. There exists a moment in every human being's life when material reality reveals itself insufficient to explain what our eyes witness and our heart feels. It is in this instant that we discover we live in a universe much vaster and more mysterious than our limited mind can comprehend. Science, with all its greatness and admirable achievements, finds itself before phenomena that challenge its most established laws, forcing us to recognize that there exists something beyond what our physical senses can reach. When we attentively observe the nature around us, we discover extraordinary signs that point to a superior reality. The butterfly that emerges from its chrysalis is not merely a biological transformation, but a living symbol that apparent death may be just a transition to a more elevated form of existence. The materialist scientist will explain this process through chemical reactions and cellular changes, but will not be able to answer why this universal tendency toward evolution and perfection exists. Similarly, when we contemplate the behavior of animals that sense earthquakes days before they happen, or observe birds that migrate thousands of miles following routes they never learned, we are confronted with an intelligence that transcends the purely physical. There exists a communication, a perception that operates beyond the 5 senses known by conventional science. And if animals possess this capacity to perceive the invisible, why couldn't human beings, endowed with a more developed consciousness, have access to even more subtle dimensions of reality? Quantum physics itself, that branch of science that studies the behavior of subatomic particles, has already demonstrated that reality is not as solid as we believed. It was discovered that particles can exist in various places at the same time, that they can communicate instantaneously regardless of the distance that separates them, and that human observation itself influences the behavior of matter. These phenomena, which seemed impossible a few decades ago, are now accepted by the most advanced scientific community. If matter can behave in ways that challenge our common logic, why would it be impossible for human consciousness, that mysterious force that allows us to think, feel, and create, to also transcend the apparent limitations of the physical brain? Why would it be impossible for this consciousness to continue existing, even when the body that housed it stops functioning? Every day, thousands of people around the world experience experiences that materialist science cannot satisfactorily explain. These are events that happen spontaneously, without being provoked or induced, manifesting naturally in the lives of ordinary individuals who, often, didn't even believe in such possibilities. These experiences reveal that there exists constant communication between our physical world and superior dimensions of existence, an exchange of information and feelings that proves unequivocally that death is not the end of our conscious journey. The moment has come to examine with seriousness and depth these phenomena that have transformed the lives of so many people, opening their hearts to a broader understanding of the true meaning of human existence. When we analyze these cases with the same dedication that science employs in its studies, we discover consistent patterns that point to a single revolutionary conclusion. We are spiritual beings living a temporary human experience, and our true nature is immortal and eternal. The first experience that proves life after death is the phenomenon of spontaneous mediumistic communication, an extraordinary manifestation that happens when ordinary people, without any previous knowledge about mediumship, begin to receive precise information about discarnate spirits they never knew in life. Maria Conceição, a 42-year-old housewife who lived in the city of Santos, had never been interested in spiritual matters. Her routine was simple: take care of the family, work as a cleaning lady, and watch soap operas at the end of the day. However, on a Tuesday morning, while cleaning the house of one of her employers, she began to hear a masculine voice that seemed to come from nowhere. The voice said, "Tell Mrs. Carmem that Jorge is well, that he no longer feels pain in his back, and that she should stop crying so much for him." Maria was frightened and tried to ignore that strange experience, but the voice insisted, providing increasingly specific details. He wants her to know that he found the wedding ring she lost 3 months ago. It's behind the stove. It fell in the gap between the furniture and the wall. The cleaning lady, not knowing what to do, decided to tell everything to her employer, fearing she would be considered crazy. Mrs. Carmem turned pale upon hearing the account. Jorge was her husband, deceased 6 months earlier after a long battle against cancer that caused him terrible back pain. And the ring had indeed disappeared 3 months ago, causing her great sadness. When they went to check behind the stove, there was the ring, exactly where the spirit had indicated. Maria could never have known these intimate details of the couple's life, as she had only been working in that house for 2 weeks. This type of experience repeats itself daily throughout the world, involving people of different cultures, religions, and education levels. What makes these cases so impressive is precisely the fact that they occur with individuals who possess no knowledge about spiritual communication, completely eliminating the possibility of fraud or staging. Dr. Gary Schwartz, psychology professor at the University of Arizona, conducted rigorous scientific studies on mediums who demonstrated this spontaneous capacity. In his controlled experiments, he completely separated the mediums from the people seeking contact with their deceased loved ones. The mediums had no access to any prior information about the consultants or about the spirits that supposedly communicated through them. The results were surprising. Mediums could provide highly specific and verifiable information about deceased people, including names, dates, physical characteristics, hobbies, professions, and even details about personal objects that only family members knew. The statistical probability of getting so many details right by mere coincidence was practically null. What most impresses in these cases is how the communicating spirits maintain their personality characteristics intact. Parents who are playful in life continue making jokes through the mediums. Grandmothers who are known for their wisdom continue offering profound advice. Husbands who are romantic continue sending affectionate messages to their widows. This continuity of personality is powerful evidence that the essence of the human being, what we really are, does not disappear with the death of the physical body. Many skeptics argue that these phenomena can be explained by telepathy, suggesting that mediums are reading the minds of the living instead of communicating with the dead. However, this explanation doesn't hold up when we analyze cases where mediums provide information that not even the family members knew, but which later proved true through research and investigations. How can we explain that a medium can read information that doesn't exist in anyone's mind present? Spontaneous mediumistic communication reveals that death is merely a transition, not an end. Spirits maintain their individuality, their memories, their feelings, and their love for those who remained on Earth. They continue interested in our well-being and seek ways to transmit consolation and guidance to us. This transformative discovery leads us to an even deeper understanding when we observe other equally extraordinary phenomena that occur in the most delicate moments of human existence. The second experience that proves life after death are deathbed visions, a phenomenon documented by doctors and nurses around the world, where terminal patients begin to see and interact with already deceased relatives in the moments preceding their spiritual transition. These episodes possess very specific characteristics that distinguish them from hallucinations caused by medications or by the deterioration of physical state. Patients who experience these experiences demonstrate surprising lucidity, even when they were unconscious or confused moments before. Their eyes acquire a special brightness, as if they were seeing something marvelous that others present cannot perceive. What makes these experiences truly extraordinary is that the dying frequently mention the presence of people they didn't know had died. Patients hospitalized for weeks, without contact with the outside world, recognize distant relatives or childhood friends who died during the hospitalization period, but whose death had not been communicated to them. This logical impossibility of knowing information that could not have been obtained by normal means clearly indicates that something beyond physical perception is happening. Doctors who work in intensive care units and hospitals specialized in palliative care consistently report that these phenomena follow very similar patterns, regardless of the culture, religion, or nationality of patients. The deceased loved ones always appear with young and healthy appearance, radiating peace and love. They come to console, reassure, and accompany the person on their transition journey. Often, these spiritual visitors transmit specific information that only they could know, offering convincing proof of their real identity. They reveal where important objects are hidden, mention private conversations they had in life, or provide details about family events that the patient had completely forgotten. This information is later verified by family members, confirming the veracity of the spiritual encounters. The transformation that occurs in patients after these visions is deeply touching. People who are anxious, afraid of death, or suffering from intense pain suddenly become serene and radiant. They speak about the beauty of what they are seeing, describe luminous places full of peace, and express an inexplicable joy at the proximity of their departure. This dramatic change in emotional state cannot be attributed simply to brain chemical processes or medication effects. Dr. Peter Fenwick, British neuropsychiatrist who studied thousands of these cases, observed that deathbed visions occur even when patients are not under the effect of morphine or other medications that could cause hallucinations. Furthermore, the experiences maintain a coherence and internal logic that are rarely found in true hallucinatory states. Experienced nurses have learned to recognize the signs that indicate when a patient is having these spiritual visions. They observe how the dying person directs their gaze to specific points in the room, smiles at invisible presences, extends their hands as if to greet someone, or whispers names of dear people who have already departed. These health professionals, initially skeptical, end up developing a broader understanding of the death process, recognizing that there is an undeniable spiritual dimension in this transition. Deathbed visions teach us that death is not a solitary and terrifying event, but rather a loving reunion with those who preceded us on the spiritual journey. They reveal that there exists a continuity of conscious existence beyond physical life, and that the bonds of love and affection remain intact even after the death of the body. This consoling discovery prepares our hearts to understand other, even more impressive phenomena that demonstrate how the soul preserves its experiences through multiple existences. The third experience that proves life after death consists of cases of children who report spontaneous memories of previous lives, providing verifiable details about people and places they could never have known in this current incarnation, demonstrating in an incontestable way the law of reincarnation. These manifestations typically occur between the ages of 2 and 5, a period when the child still maintains a stronger connection with the spiritual world from which they have just arrived. At this stage, the veil that separates the dimensions has not yet closed completely, allowing memories of past existences to naturally surface in the child's consciousness. What makes these cases extraordinary is the precision and richness of the details provided by the children. They not only mention names of people who were important in their previous lives, but also describe specific physical characteristics, professions, complete addresses, personal habits, and even traumatic events that marked those existences. This information is later investigated and confirmed through historical records, birth and death certificates, and testimonies from people who knew the deceased. Dr. Ian Stevenson, a psychiatrist at the University of Virginia, dedicated more than 40 years of his life to the scientific study of these phenomena, documenting more than 3,000 cases around the world. His rigorous methodology included detailed interviews with the children and their families, independent verification of the information provided, and analysis of historical records to confirm the existence of the people mentioned. A particularly impressive aspect of these cases is that children frequently demonstrate abilities, knowledge, or phobias that cannot be explained by their current education or experiences. A child who has never been near a piano can play complex melodies, claiming to have been a musician in a previous life. Another may demonstrate detailed knowledge about ancient medical practices or speak fluently in languages they never studied. Many of these children also present birthmarks or physical defects that correspond exactly to wounds or scars that the deceased person possessed. These physical correspondences between the child's current body and the deceased's previous body offer tangible evidence that the same soul inhabited both bodies in different periods. The emotional behavior of these children also reveals deep connections with their past lives. They demonstrate intense longing for places where they have never been, cry when mentioning relatives from other times, and express inexplicable preferences for foods, clothes, or activities that were characteristic of the previous personality. Some children even reject their current parents, insisting that their true parents are those from the previous life. When these children are taken to the places where they previously lived, they navigate the streets with surprising familiarity, even though they had never been there before. They recognize changes in architecture, point out where objects that were removed years before their current birth used to be, and identify photographs of people who died decades before they came into the world. The reaction of these children's families varies enormously. Some become disturbed and try to discourage the child from talking about these memories. Others, especially in cultures where reincarnation is naturally accepted, embrace these revelations and even establish contact with the families from the child's previous life. It is important to observe that these phenomena are not influenced by religious or cultural indoctrination. Children raised in families that do not believe in reincarnation manifest these memories with the same clarity and precision as those educated in spiritualist environments. This demonstrates that the memory of previous lives is a natural phenomenon of human consciousness, not a product of suggestion or conditioning. As these children grow, their memories of past lives gradually fade, being replaced by the experiences and learning of the current life. This natural process of forgetting allows the soul to concentrate completely on the challenges and opportunities of the present incarnation without being overwhelmed by the weight of multiple simultaneous existences. These childhood cases of spontaneous remembrance teach us that death is not the end of the individual journey, but merely a pause between chapters of a much longer and more complex story. They reveal that each human existence is an opportunity for spiritual growth, where the soul acquires experiences, develops virtues, and evolves toward perfection. This profound understanding of life's continuity prepares us to recognize other spiritual manifestations that demonstrate how love transcends all barriers, including death itself. The fourth experience that proves life after death consists of spiritual warnings and protections that occur in critical moments, when discarnate beings intervene directly in the lives of their loved ones to alert them about imminent dangers, or guide them away from situations that could be fatal. These phenomena of spiritual protection happen suddenly and unexpectedly, generally in circumstances where a decision of seconds can mean the difference between life and death. People who experience these situations report an unmistakable sensation of protective presence, accompanied by irresistible impulses to change direction, postpone a trip, or avoid a certain location without any apparent logical reason. What makes these episodes truly extraordinary is that spiritual protection often comes accompanied by unmistakable signs of the protector's identity. People distinctly feel the presence of a deceased father, mother, grandfather, or spouse, recognizing unique personality characteristics, characteristic perfume, or even hearing the familiar voice whispering words of warning in their ears. Mothers who have lost young children frequently report experiences where they feel the child pulling their clothes or holding their hand at the exact moment when they need to cross a dangerous street or avoid an accident. These manifestations of childlike protection are particularly touching, as they reveal how maternal and filial love continues operating even after the physical separation imposed by death. Drivers report experiences where they feel an invisible force turning the steering wheel of their vehicles to avoid head-on collisions, or where they clearly hear the voice of a deceased relative shouting for them to brake immediately, saving them from accidents that would have been inevitable. These interventions happen in fractions of seconds, when the conscious mind has not yet had time to process the imminent danger. Workers in high-risk professions, such as construction workers, firefighters, and police officers, develop a special sensitivity to recognize these spiritual warnings. They learn to trust sudden intuitions that make them change position, use additional protective equipment, or avoid certain work areas. Many of these professionals attribute their survival in extremely dangerous situations to the constant protection of colleagues who died in service. Spiritual protection also manifests through extraordinarily vivid premonitory dreams, where deceased relatives appear to warn about specific dangers awaiting their loved ones. These dreams possess a different quality from common dreams, being so realistic and impactful that people wake up with absolute certainty that they have received an important message from the spiritual world. Doctors and nurses frequently report situations where patients in serious condition are visited by deceased relatives who guide them about specific treatments or console them in moments of despair. These spiritual visits frequently precede surprising recoveries that health professionals cannot explain through conventional medicine. What most impresses in these cases of spiritual protection is the precision of the information transmitted by the discarnate beings. They not only warn about generic dangers, but provide specific details about times, places, and exact circumstances that should be avoided. This precision demonstrates that spirits maintain an acute perception of events unfolding in the physical world, being able to anticipate dangerous situations even before they completely materialize. The frequency of these protection phenomena increases significantly during periods of great emotional or physical turbulence in people's lives. Moments of profound grief, serious illnesses, financial crises, or marital separations seem to create favorable conditions for communication between worlds to intensify, allowing spiritual protectors to offer more direct and effective support. Many people initially skeptical regarding spiritual matters have their convictions completely transformed after experiencing episodes of supernatural protection. The tangible evidence that someone they loved continues watching over their well-being dissolves doubts and fears, replacing them with a profound understanding about life's continuity and the permanence of affective bonds beyond death. These phenomena of spiritual protection teach us that true love knows no dimensional barriers. Those who departed physically continue accompanying our earthly journey, ready to intervene when our safety or well-being is threatened. This comforting discovery leads us to an even deeper reflection about how contact with the spiritual world can completely transform our moral nature and our understanding about the true purpose of human existence. The fifth experience that proves life after death is the profound moral transformation that occurs in people who experience authentic contact with the spiritual world, revealing character changes so significant that only the direct touch of the superior dimension can explain such inner renewal. These transformations do not happen gradually, as would be expected in normal processes of personal maturation. They occur suddenly and radically, as if a powerful light had illuminated dark corners of the human soul, revealing truths that were hidden under layers of materialism and selfishness. People who lived lives centered exclusively on personal interests, accumulation of material goods, and ephemeral pleasures suddenly discover a completely new meaning for existence. The most impressive aspect of these changes is that they persist over time, not being temporary conversions motivated by passing emotions. Individuals who have gone through authentic spiritual experiences maintain their new convictions and behaviors for decades, even when facing difficulties, criticism, or social pressure to return to previous patterns of conduct. Business people who dedicated all their energy to the pursuit of profit begin to implement ethical practices in their businesses, genuinely caring about their employees' well-being and the social impact of their activities. Liberal professionals who charged abusive fees begin to offer their services free of charge to needy people, discovering much greater satisfaction in helping others than in accumulating wealth. People who harbored deep resentments, sometimes cultivated for years or decades, experience a process of forgiveness that seems impossible according to normal human standards. They not only forgive serious offenses, but begin to feel genuine compassion for those who hurt them, understanding that all human beings are in a process of spiritual evolution and that mistakes are part of this learning. The relationship with material goods also undergoes a complete revolution. People who are compulsive consumers discover that true happiness does not reside in the possession of objects, but in the capacity to love and serve others. They begin to live more simply, valuing meaningful experiences instead of unnecessary accumulations. Family relationships undergo extraordinary renewal. Parents who are distant and authoritarian become loving and understanding. Rebellious and disrespectful children develop gratitude and affection for their parents. Couples who lived in constant conflict rediscover the love that initially united them, but now at a much deeper and more spiritual level. These transformed people develop a special sensitivity to recognize others' suffering and an irresistible compulsion to offer practical help and spiritual consolation. They become true beacons of hope in their communities, naturally attracting those who seek guidance and support in difficult moments. The deepest change occurs in the understanding about the meaning of life and death. The fear of death disappears completely, being replaced by serenity based on the certainty that conscious existence continues beyond the tomb. This tranquility in the face of mortality allows them to live the present more intensely and meaningfully, taking advantage of every opportunity to grow spiritually and contribute to the common good. Many of these people develop mediumistic capacities they did not previously possess, becoming channels of consolation and guidance for others who seek contact with deceased loved ones. They use these faculties exclusively for good, never for personal benefit or exploitation of others, demonstrating how true spiritual power is always associated with selfless love. The transformation also manifests through extraordinary practical wisdom for dealing with daily challenges. These people demonstrate a surprising capacity to find creative solutions to complex problems, as if they had access to a superior source of knowledge that guides them in life's important decisions. The living testimony of these transformations deeply touches those who live with these renewed people. Family members, friends, and work colleagues observe changes so authentic and lasting that they cannot be attributed to conventional psychological factors or temporary external influences. They recognize that something truly transcendent happened in those people's lives. These profound moral transformations teach us that contact with the spiritual world is not just an interesting curiosity or an isolated phenomenon, but rather a call for the complete renewal of the human being. They demonstrate that our true nature is spiritual, and that when we connect with this superior dimension, we discover capacities for love, wisdom, and service that were dormant in our soul, awaiting the right moment to flourish and transform not only our own existence, but also the lives of all those we touch in our earthly journey. Reflect for a moment. If you have absolute certainty that death is merely a transition, if you know that your loved ones continue watching over you, if you understand that each of your actions has eternal consequences, how should this change your priorities at this exact instant? What petty feelings are you still cultivating that need to be transformed into love? What opportunities to do good are you wasting out of fear, laziness, or indifference. If this video touched your soul and awakened a thirst for spiritual knowledge that you didn't even know existed, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications. We have an extraordinary journey ahead, exploring the deepest mysteries of human existence and discovering truths that will continue transforming your life forever.